the order. So the order for operations are the following. It's going to be parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, and then we're going to do add and subtraction last. Or add and subtract. Now, one way that people remember this is through please excuse. So how people remember this is just going please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Right, so we have the please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So if you just take, right, the P is for parentheses, the E is for exponents, and so forth. So other people just will go PEMDAS to make it easier. So you can kind of have a checklist. So let's go over some examples. So the first one, example 1, 5 minus 3, and then in parentheses 2 plus 4 squared. So if we write, I'm going to rewrite this. So we first need to deal with the P, which is the parentheses. So we would have to look at this, and we notice we have a parentheses. We would address this first. Now, inside the parentheses, we actually also keep the order of operations also there, too. So when we look at this, we have addition, and we have an exponent. So if we look at our list, we don't have any more further parentheses, but we do have an exponent. So that would be the first thing we need to address, is the exponent, so the E. So what we could do is rewrite this like this, then go 2 plus, so 4 squared is just 4 times 4, which is 16. And we close the parentheses. So we've dealt with the exponent. Then we don't have to multiply or divide, so we can just check that we can move past it. Then we need to add. So 2 plus 16 is 18. So we can then go down a little bit further and go 5 minus 3, and then 2 plus 16 is 18. Close the parentheses. So we've dealt with that. Now, we've dealt with parentheses. We're going to go back. We're going to do X's for like the overall thing, and this was inside the parentheses was just the check marks. So when we look at that, we don't have any exponents, but we do have a multiplication. Our multiplication is right here, because 3 right by the parentheses, right, is a multiplication. So 3 times 18 is 54. So let's go ahead and rewrite this. So we have 5 now minus 54. So we've dealt with the multiplication division step. Now our final step will be to subtract. So we just go 5 minus 54, which is going to be negative 49. So this would be our final answer. Example 2. A person invests $1,000 into the stock market. In the first week, it increased in profit by 60%. At the beginning of the second week, the person invested an additional $500. And by the end of the second week, the total decreased for a loss by 1/10. Write an expression for this and determine the present amount. So in the examples in OneMap, you will not have to actually write the expression, but this is just good practice to see how this all came about. So let's go ahead and go back to the first sentence to figure out what happened there. So a person invests $1,000 into the stock market. So let's just go ahead and write $1,000. Now, this increased by a profit of 60%. So what does that mean? That means we're going to go ahead and multiply this, and we go 160 over 100, because we need to have the full amount, but then it also increased by 60%. So what's the total? And you might have to go back to percent, and kind of like what number times the starting amount equals the ending amount, if you need to like do some review on that. Now, at the beginning of the second week, the person invested an additional $500. Well, since we're done with this, let's go ahead and just close this. Now, the person invested an additional $500. So we can go ahead and just write plus, because this is addition, $500. And then let's go ahead and just close this brackets here. Now, by the end of the second week, the total decreased for a loss by 1/10. So if you're going to decrease by 1/10, that means you only have 9/10 remaining. So another way to look at that would be to go times 9/10, because then you have the remaining. Otherwise, you have to go times 1/10 and then take the starting amount and then minus that amount. So this just kind of eliminates that step and it's a lot easier. So we just go times 9/10 because that's what's remaining. And then we're done. That's the whole expression. So let's go ahead and now solve. So the first step would be probably to rewrite. So P, E, M, D, and then A, S. So what we're going to do first is we're going to go ahead and look inside the parentheses. So we see that there's a parentheses here and then another parentheses. So we're going to go to the inner parentheses first. So it's 1,000 times 160 over 100. So the first thing is we'll just multiply. So let's get a calculator out. So we have 1,000. So we go 1,000 times 160, and then we're just going to divide by 100. So we get 1,600, or 1,600. So let's go ahead and rewrite this. So we have now $1,600. We'll just rewrite everything else. Now the next step would be to, since we dealt with this inner parentheses, we still have to deal with the bigger parentheses. So it's just $1,600 plus $500. There's nothing else to do, so we just go ahead and add. So 1,600 or 1,600 plus 500 is 2,100. Then we just go times 9/10. Now the final step for us to do would just be to multiply, because there's nothing else to do because we dealt with it in parentheses. So now we just go times 9/10. So this was plus the 500. Then we go times 9 and then divide by 10, and we get 1,890. And this is money, so we'll just add that. And that would be our final solution.